Hi, welcome back to SoCode. So in this video, we'll be talking about role definitions, role segregations, user privileges using Powerapps. In typical applications, there are usually different level of privileges or job functions or delegations, role delegations, where you have different users using the same application, but having different privileges or job description or the things that they can do on that application. So take for instance a school environment where you have different kind of users using the application. The students are accessing the application, possibly the parents are accessing the application, the lecturers are accessing the applications, and the finance department and all of those things. And you want to ensure that the policy of minimum privileges is enforced. In that kind of situation, you have to create a way where the system is able to identify who has logged in and the kind of privileges that user should have. And also it applies in different scenarios, in engineering, in banking, in everywhere, where you have to define privileges for all the users that will be accessing the application. So that is what this video is about. And in many scenarios, programmers or the system designers, the system engineer, they decide the best approach to use in managing those privileges. You could customize. We might say there is no rule actually, just follow the things that work and put in efficiency and judicious use of resources in mind when you are taking your options. So in this video, we'll be looking at how Powerapps can be used to handle role definitions where different users are assigned different privileges or different things they can do. For instance, in a school environment where you have the finance people and you have the class teachers who records the student data, student costs and all that. The finance deals with the finance part of it. When they log in, they don't have many things in common. They have their job functions separately. So we are going to be taking a scenario where you have different users logging in, but having different menu items that they can make use of. And really depending on the approach you decide to use, in some scenario, the developer or the engineer might decide to create two separate applications, one for the admin and the other for the other users or anything in between. And they have basically different applications. But the scenario we are taking is a situation where everyone is using the same application, but the system should be intelligent enough to determine who has logged in and the privileges that are assigned to that user. And of course, it's possible you define this role. You define these privileges per user or per user role. So per user means that I and another person could be in the same department, the same function, but we have division of labor, or division of different privileges. So that could be we could do privileges based on user. We could also do based on role. So we're going to be using an educational institution like a small school as the use case for our example. Remember, the concept is just to create a dynamic menu items for different roles that will be logging into the application. And we'll be using a school, so it's going to be a database approach, database driven menu. So we're going to create all the roles and their role ID as the primary key. So let's call the name of the table or the sheet roles table. And let's also have a table for the users and also with role ID. So that's the primary key here as well as the foreign key for this particular table, the roles table. So Frank is for role 1, which is cashier role. Benjamin to his own role, and Ruth for parent. So you could still have some other fields: last signing date, status, date created, and stuff like that. All those fields as may be required, but we're not going to that. We just basically need these 2 columns. And we've got the users table, we've got the rows table. We'll come back to create the actual menu table. So let's create a blank canvas app. Create, and let's call this my school. Yeah, let's make the layout or the format tablet. Okay. So you just create a login page, and now let's bring in our data source. Let's connect our data source, which is Google Sheet. You could see a list of other connectors that you could use. Pardon me for my picture placement right here. So when you have selected your data source, you're going to see all those tables right behind where I have erroneously put my image right there. Please don't mind. Then let's do a blank sheet, that layout. Okay, let's just call this attendance page. Let's just call that for now. We are not really so concerned about that for now. You can always come back to change it. So we've got rows table, we've got users table. So let's have the actual menu tables, where you have the actual menus that belong to those roles and that cascades in effect to the users. So this is the proper way of building a normalized database, where you have the primary key and the item. And if you look at it, you see how the role ID maps to the menu name. So right here, we're going to be using a vertical gallery, which is more or less like a list, but can be used for many purposes. So let's drag that and fit into place based on the layout of the screen we have picked. And okay, let's just go back to our login screen. I just like to make things a bit realistic, so let's have that in place. And okay, so for our text box, we have user ID, login. And so what do we want to happen when you tap on the login button? So we're going to be setting up variables. So we're going to be setting up global variables, because we're going to be using those values or those variables in another screen. So we use set. So set is for initializing or reinitializing a global variable, while you use update context for a local variable. That is a variable that is local to a screen. So you could just pause. If I'm going too fast, you could just pause the video. Always conscious of the duration of the video, so you could just pause or speed it up as the case may be. So right here, so let's link see this as a container for the menu, the list. So let's link it up with the data source. So we are going to be filtering the menu table based on the role of the user ID. Remember that we have captured the user ID and the role ID from the login page, from the login button. So we're going to be calling that right here. So let's set the property of that to menu name. In some programming languages, they use this to reference this particular object. Use this, use me dot or this dot in C. So let's do one more thing here. So on logging in, so after setting up the variables, then let it navigate home. I think I just like to use uncover right effect. So saving save lives. So let's always remember to save. And we're going to be testing that in a bit and see the effect of what we've done so far. So let's just type a random ID which does not exist and see the effect. Login blank. So it does not exist in the database. So there is no menu to attach to it, to that user ID. But of course, in typical scenarios, you do not even allow the user to get beyond the login page if they are not authorized to use this application. But let's just make the navigation from these two pages easier by putting that login button, and let's just use that to navigate back to the home page. So let's test that. Login and still blank, log out. Right, so let's try something realistic. A user that exists. Right. So we've got those menu items for the user a.ruth, and that's based off the role. You could see that the root is assigned to a role ID of 6, which is a parent, and has all this assigned to a parent, to the parent profile. So for everyone created as a parent, they are going to have this. So let's see the effect of another. Let's just add another menu item and see how that is affected in front. So that points to the fact that you could go ahead and create more menu items for any of the categories, any of the roles, and you see the effect right from the front end. But because we are on development stage, for every update you do on the database side, you have to come back to the front to refresh it. But when we are in production, when it is already published, when your application is published, it's automatic. So we've got 4 menu items right there, right now, and that shows that the new menu item we've added has taken effect effectively, and it's coming to the front. So let's go ahead and let's say for future, we want to, for each of those menu items, we want to redirect, we want to navigate to different screens. So we can also define that right there. And we're not going to be doing that in this video. We're just going to prove the concept of designated menu, designated role, designated privileges, and all that. We're not going to actually be navigating from those buttons, but let's just do some facelifting for our menu items right here. So there are 2 levels to it. So let's just do okay, let's just put a pop. There's a property, a pop that just gives some kind of effect, and you could just play around using different colors as the case may be. So you could see that as I move along, there's a hover effect on the text, which is not too bad. But let's go for something Let's go for a better UI UX. Let's pop this off. That's just a label. I think it's better if you use a button which has a bolder appearance, and so you have to select the first item on the list, and when you drop an item, when you have it selected, it cascades all the way down. So let's fit that, let's fill that into space. Let's occupy that space. Right button, you see that as you drag it along, it always affect that everywhere on the list. So let's change the property, let's change the text property of this to reflect the actual menu name. Text property, say this item dot menu name. Yep, brilliant. So we got that, and you could see that the navigation looks a lot better now than what we had previously. So right, you see as I hover around, it does its thing, and of course it's not linked to anywhere, so as I click, it's not going to send any feedback, it's not going to answer me. So let's saving saves live, and let's just go back to login page and do something about unauthorized access. So let's say we want to validate the user that is coming in and see if he exists, if the user account exists on our database. So it's just basically going to filter by that user ID and count by that user ID, count how many times the user ID occurs in our database. Of course, if it is not found, it's going to be 0. So if it is less than 1, it means that user ID is not found. And we send a notification to the user. And let's put a notification type just after the text, after the notification itself. Let's put that, and else navigate. Okay, let's put a random user, and that's the effect. You are not authorized to use this application, or your user ID is incorrect. So that's the response we should have. And for a valid user, we are able to log in. So that's the ideal thing to happen right there. So let's just make this a bit more of a live scenario. So let's welcome our user, and let's do that. The user role. Remember, we've captured the user role into that variable right from our login page. Then let's do this. Okay, so we have that. Let's go back from the beginning. Login, and we have hi a.ruth. Your profile is parent. Pardon my typo there. So let's go for Benjamin. Hi b.benjamin. Your profile is accountant. And you could see the menu items that they are different from Ruth's menu. We are not going into clicking these items, navigating into those actual pages, because that is not the focus of this video. So let's log out and do Ruth again, login. You could see that for each of the member that is logging in, they are saying different thing, different menu items. If Frank is logging in from his own device, he's a cashier and is going to be seeing these menu items that are only assigned to cashier. Like I said, you could vary this based on each user, such that you could have 2 cashiers having different privileges. So right here, so let's log out, and that is it on this video. Thank you for watching to this point. If you've got a value for this video, please do like, share, do notification, always come back. We are going to be treating tiny bits of powerful stuff like this that would enhance your applications and give you control, right? Thank you.